Welcome to Paladin Financial Talk. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I'm excited because today the host of the show is none other than Matt Bryant from Paladin Financial. And Matt, great to be here with you, buddy.
So good. Love it.
I love it. I love it. And you've got a great topic for us. Listeners, you're in for a real treat. When you see this face over here, well, actually, that guy, yeah.
That's right.
That guy right there. We're sitting across from each other here. But yeah, Matt, our listeners are fortunate to have you on. I love talking with you. And it's good to get a break from the Jeffs.
Oh,
my two Jeffs.
Yeah.
Quick and Foley.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Need to change of pace here.
Yeah. It sounds like an old 60s television comedy show, Quick and Foley or Foley and Quick.
That's right. One of those old sitcoms that.
Yeah, like the Hudson Brothers or Foley and Quick, the comedy duo.
Comedy's stretching it, but
the amazing comedic stylings of Quick and Foley.
Two financial planners in your living room.
I love it. We have to give those guys a hard time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they've earned it. They deserve it. No, they're great guys. So Matt, first, before we dig in, how have you been?
I've been great.
What's going on?
Summer's kicking off.
It is
nice and warm.
I love that.
The rain finally stopped.
Oh, it was so crazy.
Yeah.
My parents, where I grew up is Worthington, Minnesota. It's in the southwestern corner of the state. And I don't know if you know about it, right down close to the Iowa border. It's really bad down there.
They're having a lot of trouble.
Yeah. The lake in Worthington, Minnesota, the last time it overflowed its banks, it happened once before. And that's in 1969. But since then, where it overflowed, it's been built up, around it. So that was like 4 feet down from where the edges are now and the sidewalk and the street, but it's overflowed. It's banks.
There's some crazy pictures.
And that's in the center of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're crazy. Awful. That house, the house by the dam fell in. Did
it finally fall in?
I saw video of it.
Close
There's
to happening.
Video of it.
That's
yeah,
terrible.
and that dam might break. So they're really concerned about that. So we pray for the folks that are dealing with flooding. We don't want to make light of it. My dad owns farmland down there. He's retired and in assisted living, but he rents it out, leases it to another farmer. But I would say, and that's one of the most fertile farm ground there is in the state, is southwestern Minnesota along the Iowa border, at least in the state of Minnesota. And I would say 25 to 40% of that land is not going to, no crops will come from it this year because it's underwater. Yeah.
We had 2 years of droughts. We had no snow last year. Then all of a sudden,
there was a drought this year. They thought it was going to be a drought. There's no snow. And then there was very little rain, and then we got all the rain at once, apparently, in 1 month.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, it has been. So, but we're not here to talk about the weather.
Not about the weather.
Give us the title of today's show. I found it interesting.
Okay, so it's Living the Dream with a question mark.
Okay.
Buying timeshares and RVs in retirement. And this is part of our lifestyle series where Ellie and Jeff and some of the others have talked about some big purchases that happen, not necessarily just in retirement, but throughout life. I'm going to focus a little bit about some of the common things we see people retire to and what they want to spend their time and money doing. And that's one of them's timeshares, and one of them is buying that RV.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into those today.
Yeah. Boy, I know a lot of people who have retired and done one or the other or both. So I'm glad we're talking about this because sometimes it's buyer beware and you got to be careful. I wouldn't make any financial move like that without working with a financial professional like yourself.
Absolutely. And they can be a lot of fun, but those are both huge costs, and they're things that you're purchasing or getting into that aren't exactly what we call liquid, where if you do have buyer's remorse, it's not something that you can turn around the next day and say, I'm good with this.
That's the problem. It's not liquid, right? It's tough.
It's tough. And speaking specifically about timeshares, it sounds great where, you get into this condominium or this apartment or this unit in someplace tropical, for example, or maybe there's multiple places around the world that you can visit. All you have to do is pack up, go, leave everything behind, and then you're done. The issue is it can be pretty expensive.
Sure.
you're somewhat restricted in when you can actually visit and what places you can actually visit. And then the biggest one, I think this is one that a lot of people hear horror stories about, is if you're in them, a lot of times you are not able to get back out, and there'll be ongoing maintenance fees, special assessments, different things like that. So you're in it, sounds great, and there's probably a lot of good benefits, but if you get 3, 5, 10 years down the road and you're not using it, or your financial situation's changed, there's not an easy way to get out of those.
Yeah, I had family members, aunt and uncle, who had a timeshare, and they enjoyed it at first and made the payments. They were enjoying it. They spread it around with some of their family and friends, and shared in the cost. But then they wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And that's where the trouble started.
You need to do your homework and see what type of firm you're working with. Some of them are easier than others.
Mm-hmm. It was, they had to get an attorney, and they had to, no. I mean, it was bad. They couldn't get out of it.
Have you ever been part of the timeshare pitch?
Once my wife and I, we were in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. We went there for a concert. We're not big Vegas people or gamblers, but we were there, and we got offered like 2 extra nights stay for free, and all these extra perks if we would go see, because they're building all these big new housing facilities and condos in Vegas. And it was a timeshare situation, and we sat through that to get the perks. We didn't do it, but oh my goodness, the pressure.
We did it on our honeymoon in Jamaica.
Oh my goodness.
A bit naive in agreeing to do it.
Yes, and us too. This was a long time ago. Yeah. My wife and I were young.
So I show up, and they're like,
before kids, BK.
They're like, "Where's your wife?" I was like, "Oh, she's not coming." And they're like, "No, she needs to come." So she just got done working out, so she's just out of the gym. We go to the breakfast, super nice, very chatty.
Yeah.
Then they take you to the back room, and it's like windowless and bright lights and everything. And said no 8, 10, 12 times, it seemed like. And it was insane how pressured those situations
they didn't want to let you go.
Yeah. And I'm sure they get a lot of people to say yes, but it's something you have to do your homework on.
And if you say yes and sign that contract in the heat of the moment, going in thinking, we'll just go, we'll say no, we'll get the freebies or perks.
I can see why there's an entire industry built around it, because
then you sign a contract that you cannot get out of, and that costs you way more than they allude to. And so, there's even been, I know there was a bill proposed in Congress to really strictly regulate that industry, and I don't think it passed. I think there are still issues with it, but that to say, you can do a timeshare that will work for you. I know people that have had timeshares for years, and they love it.
Again, it goes to doing the research on the company and the properties that you have access to, and some of them are much better to work with than others. So I shouldn't disparage the entire industry, but it's something you need to do your homework on, because it's not a cheap endeavor.
Yeah, and then the use of the property. I mean, there are limitations that they can impose that you don't realize. So there's a lot of fine print, isn't there?
Yeah, and like blackout periods. If you want to do it at the popular times, maybe between Christmas and New Year or spring break type of part of the season, you may not be able to. It might be
you're paying all this money for this timeshare, which you think, hey, I get use. I can use this anytime during the year I want, or these times, but you're like, wow, I can't do it when I want to do it.
Yep.
And you're paying all this money. That's frustrating.
It is very frustrating. The alternative, or another option in addition to that, instead of timeshares, would be the RV. So when you think of RV, you're thinking ultimate freedom, right?
There's a recreational vehicle.
Right? Cousin Eddie. And
don't go falling in love with her though, Clark. Right. We're taking her with us when we leave here in a month.
Love the reference.
Yeah.
Love the reference.
There's an RV. Yep.
Coolidge, Kansas is where Cousin Eddie lived.
Yeah, in Kansas.
That's right.
Not far from your home turf.
Yeah. Opposite side of the state.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a very popular one. And my wife and I and our son, we have a travel trailer. So not the full blown $600,000 traveling castle, but the little travel trailer. But we go to the same places these other ones go and camp next to them. And it's a lot of people that are retired and they spend maybe the entire season at one particular area, or they're traveling down south during the winter months and then back up north for the summer months. So it gives you a ton of freedom. It's your home that you get to travel with. So if you do it right, you're sleeping in your own bed at night, you have your own stuff with you. There's a lot of benefits to it. I had never done it before my wife convinced us to buy one a few years ago.
Wow.
And have loved it.
Yeah.
But it's also something that comes with a lot of responsibility. Just like with a house where you buy a starter home and the maintenance and the costs are a lot less than that dream home that's 3 times the size. And
yeah, those big RVs, not only are they exponentially more expensive than a lot of campers, but a full RV, those big ones you see that retired people have a dream about, going cross country to all the national parks. Like you said, you can spend anywhere on a camper from $100,000 up to $1 million.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some TV shows that take you into building them and customizing them. And
it's crazy what people have put into them. Yeah. But all campers nowadays are to me expensive, even the smaller campers. And isn't there another added hidden cost that people don't think about? They think about, well, we're going to save all that money because we want to travel and we'd have to pay for hotels. Well, the cost of actually campgrounds has gone up too in a lot of places, hasn't it?
Yeah. And there's all kinds of different ones. If you're buying one of those real nice RVs, you're probably not staying at the campgrounds that are a few bucks a night.
Right.
You're going to the more resort oriented ones where there's a bunch of amenities. And yeah, I can easily get up there to not quite the cost of a nice hotel, but you're adding that cost. Not surprisingly, they're not fuel efficient to drive.
No.
Yeah. So
one of those big, huge coach RV buses.
You might be getting gallons per mile and not miles per gallon.
And then they're towing a car behind or a trailer with bikes on it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's 8 miles to the
gallon.
The
wind's blowing 40 miles an hour in their face. So.
Yeah, and it's a flat front, so it's not aerodynamic. Yep. Yeah, they're single-digit gas mileage is not fun.
Yes, and insurance obviously is a big one.
Yeah.
Every time something breaks, plan on a couple $1,000s just to get it fixed. And everything in an RV, you can get full-size kitchens, washer and dryer, all that. But that's built specifically for those types of spaces. So it's not like you're going to Best Buy and picking up a new refrigerator. It has
or going to the scratch and dent store to get it. It's specialized for the camper or RV. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it can be a ton of fun though. I joke with my wife, who's not on board with this plan, of when we're older and our son's out of the house and it's 3 degrees in February, like, why don't I just take the RV down south and I can work from there? Be remote, nice and warm.
Yeah.
My boss doesn't know about that either, but like it sounds ideal to me.
We'll have to run that by the Foley's
details, and then drive it back up when winter's over.
Sure.
She's not as keen on that, so I might be flying solo on that particular one. But the point is, it gives you that sort of flexibility where you can pack up and see the entire country. You can spend large chunks of time in different places, and you still have your home with you, essentially.
Yeah. True. There are a lot of pluses, but you want to make sure you're well aware of the negatives. But this discussion on RVs always, I know people and people with money, in fact, we have, some of the same people I do. And there's a couple over in Wisconsin, a son and his mom, and that we both know, and they each bought an RV for themselves. But 2 years later, they're trying to sell those RVs and they can't get back out of them what they're worth.
No.
And so they depreciate so much in value. And that's another negative. But so many people I know, I was just using them as an example, and they loved their RVs while they had them. But it's like a boat. There's things like boats, timeshares, RVs. These are things that people, the idea behind them is great and they're a blast.
Yep.
But they're very expensive. You don't a lot of people aren't able to use them very often, so they sit there and they're seeing this just sit there and the money just go. So a lot of people, those are things a lot of people end up trying to sell right away.
Yep.
And a good friend of ours, Chuck Lucius, owner of Gradient, he once told me, he goes, Tony, you don't need an RV or a boat. You just need a friend with an RV or a boat.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's their lifestyle things.
Chuck is great.
It's not, it is a hobby to an extent, but you're not buying it as an investment. So you need to look at what your other assets look like and make sure you can support this. You shouldn't go into it thinking you're going to save all this money because likely you're not. There's always something going wrong with them.
Right.
But they are a ton of fun. You just need to commit to it. But yeah, I see it all the time. You can drive around whatever neighborhood and you see campers and RVs sitting in the driveway that get used maybe 5-10 times or nights a year. That's an expensive thing to be sitting in your driveway not being used.
Yep.
And we're 4 years on from COVID now. Those were hot ticket items in COVID.
Very.
Yeah. And now all those people that, not all, but a lot of the people that bought them, like, hey, this is how we're going to be away from people and we're going to take advantage of this. They are selling them. And so what was a hot industry 4 years ago is now you can pick them up for way less than what.
Yeah.
So if you're in the market for one now, good for you, because you're stepping into one that's probably gently used and pennies on the dollar compared to what it cost 4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And new, they're still expensive, but you're right. I've seen campers used are going for better prices now than I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yep.
That's true. That's a good point. The used market is prime. If you're trying to sell, not so good.
Not so good. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not an asset that's going to appreciate for you. You're going to lose money the day you drive it off the lot.
Like you said, as a financial advisor, it's not an investment. A boat, an RV is not an investment. It's a purchase.
Yeah. It's for your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Next week for the 4th of July holiday, we are taking our camper out and we're going to.
Good for you.
So I'll be jealous to an extent of all the people with the nice big motorhomes until I.
Oh, I like those little campers. Those are nice.
And
there's some nice ones.
Yeah. So
you don't have one of those Airstreams that's all stainless or all the chrome.
No. Okay. We're at the entry level side.
Is it a pop-up?
No, it's not a pop-up.
Okay, so you're better than that. Yeah. Good.
Well, I'm saying better than anybody.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Pop-ups can be nice too. Some of those are really nice.
My wife did this growing up. I never did. So when she brought this as an idea, I was like, all right, air conditioning, a bathroom, like running water.
Yep.
And like an actual mattress, not just, sleeping on a little foam.
Yeah.
So we checked those 3 boxes and I've loved it.
Those are 3 boxes that would absolutely have to be checked for me as well.
I feel like people get cranky when there's no air conditioning.
Yeah. My wife likes to camp, but she likes, her and the kids like tents. And I'm like, I'm not burning a couple of vacation days to sleep on the ground.
No, that was a non-starter for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to burn a couple of vacation days to sleep on the ground.
We can take a tent and you guys can sleep in it if that's what you prefer.
We did it a couple of times.
Did you?
And both experiences were nightmares for me. I think I still have actually an ache or a problem with my back from the one night we slept on the ground. Yeah.
And you used PTO.
And it was a 4th of July camping trip too. And I used PTO.
Oh man, it's just an extra kick.
Yeah, no, but camping is for those who love that's great. I mean, give me a 5-star hotel or a resort. But yes, and not that I do that often, but it is funny. So many people end up selling a boat. The line, I have to say it, and it's same with an RV. The 2 happiest days in an RV owner's life are the day they buy it and the day they sell it.
Yeah, very, very likely. And it's just a lot of people want to try it. I say if you want to try it, rent one.
Yeah.
You can rent them for not much money, a few $100.
Yeah.
Make sure you're comfortable with all the maintenance and, draining your own tanks and whatnot.
Yes.
we see a lot of people when we go camping that love it, and that's what they've been doing for 20 years.
Yes.
So it's absolutely something that's doable for a lot of folks. But
yeah, my grandfather did it every year. I
Yeah.
mean, he lived to 101, and he did it all the way up into his late 90s. In fact,
Impressive.
he was actually camping at a local campground 2 months before he passed.
Okay.
Actually, at 101, he was camping.
So
Yeah,
he loved it.
he
And
loved it. And they would go down to Texas after he retired from farming, and they would drive down there with he had a fifth wheel pull behind.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was pretty big. Yeah. He loved that.
Yeah, and we see those people out on the road, and you make new friends for the weekend and whatnot, and they wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
And then you see some people that can't wait to get rid of the thing. And
Right.
so just do your homework and try it out. But those are two big things, timeshares and RVs, that have this great allure to them. But if you're not prepared and careful about it, can turn into an absolute nightmare.
Right. They can. And I think the big point here is for our listeners and viewers, if you're thinking about this type of purchase, make sure you're working first with a financial professional like the folks at Paladin, because what they can help you do is say, hey, let's plan for this. If in retirement you want to travel the world in an RV or travel the US, wherever you're at, that's great. And you can do that if you plan for it. Right. And you don't want to be pulling money out that you're going to need to live on in retirement to make these things happen. So first consult with a financial professional. And I know that Matt, you and everybody over there at Paladin would be happy to hear from our listeners and viewers. If they have questions, how can they get a hold of you?
That's right. So our website, paladinfinancial.com, you can give us a call. That's usually the easiest way. It's 651-842-8406. We're happy to chat with you. A lot of our clients are in this situation, and we build that into the planning process. So it's not something that you shouldn't do. It's just having a plan for it and being prepared. And it's a big conversation we have on an ongoing basis.
That's excellent. Great show today, because I think it's really something that a lot of people preparing for retirement look at or have as a goal to camp. And there's nothing wrong with it, but you just need to plan for it and avoid costly mistakes like everything else in retirement. Plan, right?
That's right.
So give Paladin a call. I think that's great. That does it for today's episode of Paladin Financial Talk with our host today, Matt Bryant.